Welcome to Tehachapi, the City of Tehachapi's podcast, where we share conversations with local leaders, business owners, and community members. Don't miss an episode. Be sure to follow and subscribe to learn something new and discover ways to get involved in our community. It's Tehachapi time. Key Budge, Bailey Damian joining me today. Bailey, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
This might be the first one we've done together.
I think it is. Mm-hmm.
Okay. No, I'm not feeling any pressure. Hopefully no pressure for you.
No pressure.
Okay, good deal. We've got two exciting guests locally here from Tehachapi joining us, Bailey. And we're going to talk about a cool series of documentaries that are being showcased here in Tehachapi. It's an Eclectic Film Series. Andi Hicks is the host, creator of this series. Andi, welcome.
Well, thank you. It's good to be here.
And today, we're going to talk about Death Makes Life Possible. And this is the fifth documentary in the series. So going to feature the filmmaker that's also a local resident. So let's just welcome in Marilyn Schlitz. Marilyn, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
It's nice to have you. Andi, how's the series been going? This has been I know that Maya has been working with you closely on trying to help promote, and we're trying to draw people in to see these very interesting films that have been put together and showcasing local talent that we've got here. It's one thing that's the hidden talent that's here in Tehachapi, that it's a place that we've got so much creativity that lives here, and you've been able to find some of these creators.
Oh, yes, it's been amazing. I wanted to do this about 25 years ago, and it took until June at an EDC meeting to say, yes, I have to do this. You know, there's so much talent here, all kinds of creative talent, whether they're lecturers or they're filmmakers or they're doctors or they're people flying airplanes, and nobody knows it. And so it's time that we find out about them, and that's what makes it so exciting. So here we are with Marilyn Schlitz and Death Makes Life Possible, and I'm excited.
Marilyn, we're excited to have you, so thank you for taking the time. And before we started recording, I asked you the question. I go, okay, hold on. Before you start answering, I want to save it but I want to bring it in now. So what we're going to talk about today is the documentary Death Makes Life Possible. It's also a book. So normally it's a book that goes to film. What is the story of how this was created? That's not the norm.
Well, we try to live outside the norm. Let's see. I have been interested in this topic of death and what happens after. I'm an anthropologist by training, so I am looking at how different cultures and worldviews understand this inevitability of our own mortality and beyond. And so I started reporting and recording interviews with people, scientists, cultural masters, spiritual teachers, and I was at a workshop with Dr. Deepak Chopra, and one of his colleagues had become seriously ill, and so I was kind of pinch hitting for him. And I had a video of some scientists talking about the evidence for survival of consciousness after bodily death. And I showed it during my talk. And after the presentation, Deepak called me in and he's like, Marilyn, let's make a movie. And I said, great. You know, who wouldn't want to make a movie with Deepak Chopra? And then I went to bed that night, woke up the next morning and was terrified. I thought, no way I could do that. Largely because it costs a lot of money to produce something that has good, production value. And so I went to lunch with him and explained my dis-ease about it. And he said, oh, Marilyn, don't worry about the money will come. And I'd like to say it was that simple. It wasn't, but the money did come, and we spent a couple of years really recording, finding wonderful stories, people to interview. And as the film was being created, it seemed appropriate to partner it with a book. I could go into more depth in a book than I could in a film. And so that's really the story of it.
Did you see it as a book as well as the movie?
Not originally. It sort of morphed into kind of a suite of products. So I also created learning guides for health professionals because they're really not educated around these kinds of conversations. I also created a podcast series. We took the film all over the world. It's been a really exciting adventure.
That's it. Very cool. So not only an author and a filmmaker, a podcast host. I love that. This might be the first time we've had a podcast host come in.
Well, we may want to just encourage her to start doing some of her lectures and courses here in Tehachapi. So let's see if we can do that.
Now, how
love
long have
to.
you been here in Tehachapi?
We moved to Stallion Springs 6 years ago.
Okay.
Did you come from LA?
Well, no. We came from, I had a home in Petaluma, which is
Okay.
Northern Cal. We lived in Silicon Valley for a little while. I teach at Sophia University, which
wow.
is on transpersonal psychology, so I'm a professor there. And shortly before COVID hit, it became obvious that it would be nice to be closer to our kids. So we moved here. We looked around. My husband got a job in Mojave. He's an electrical engineer he's also a musician, award-winning musician, and he's going to share the stage with me when we do this showing of Death Makes Life Possible.
That's exciting. Now, have you guys ever worked together in that creative sense before?
We have. We've done a number of events. I've done many, many presentations, and I used to drag him along to provide ambiance. He's a beautiful guitar player, and he wrote the score for the film.
Wow.
And he also performs it.
That's right.
That's exciting. Now, I'm very interested in finding more about this topic. Now, let's kind of go into it. Where is your, I don't want to say fascination, but where is your deep interest for the topic, and knowing, what it is, what's the possibilities of, life beyond death?
Yeah, I think that one of the great, if not the greatest fear people have is of dying. And they have a lot of questions. It's that great unknown that I think causes a lot of the anxiety people experience. So I was interested in helping to assuage that anxiety instead of feeling panic or uncertainty. How could we help to heal that? And in that process, make life more fulfilling and life more worth living. So that was really the impetus for it. And then understanding that as people have these kind of fears and phobias, it often leads to dysfunctional behaviors. When people don't understand mortality, when they're afraid, they can become very antagonistic toward the outgroup, those people who are different from themselves. And so I was really interested in how we could find the common story across different cultures, worldviews, belief systems that could help us to heal those anxiety moments and also to foster a greater in-group, a greater sense that we are all interconnected, and that ultimately this is a question for everyone. Why do we die? What happens when we die? And how can that help us heal?
Were you able to find that common point between different people?
Well, one of the people I interviewed was a Muslim imam. And in the film, people will see when they come out on the 28th of October, he speaks so beautifully about how this is the central uniting factor for all cultures, all people. And so finding ways for us to understand those connection points. First of all, we have an awareness of our mortality, every culture, every person. If you look throughout human history, people have developed rituals, practices, processes for helping them understand, whether it's, you think about the pyramid, and they took elaborate steps to prepare for a journey after death of the physical body. Well, we find this in many, many cultures. We also find that different cultures have processes for preparing for their death. And so one of the things I'm about to do is publish a new book. It's called Death, Let's Talk About It. And I think that that's really what we're trying to do with this film, is raise questions. It's not with a certain definitive answer what happens when we die, but to create a context where it's safe to have those conversations.
Andi, how did you meet Marilyn and come to know this project and to want to include it in this series?
Well, actually, I don't know. I got a phone call or an email, I don't remember now, and she said, I have this film and I think I'd like to talk to you about it. And it's so different from some of the other things that we've done. We did a little premiere, we're going to do a musical, we did a feature film, did a comedy. It was like, this is so perfect. This is so perfect. This is so much what Tehachapi and this whole region is all about, is to get to know what's going on and who's doing it.
And when I contacted her, I said, well, my film is pretty eclectic.
That's right, you did. and it is. And everybody needs to come. So, yeah, I'm so excited.
And that's going to be, as Marilyn had mentioned, October 28th is the last Tuesday of every month.
That's right.
Is when you are featuring the new film for the series. And this time it is Death Makes Life Possible. And you're going to do it at Fiddler's Crossing.
That's right.
And so tell us a little bit about going into that venue. It's a very intimate setting.
Oh, yes. I've actually was really happy about going to different venues because I wanted to attract different people.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want the people who went to one venue to be the same people who would come and go and come and go. But at this last we were also at Fiddler's Crossing last month, and we did UBO, Unidentified Bright Objects. And one of the things that was so interesting was that although they commented on the film and on the people in it, they all said, we love this ambiance. We love this place. This is really nice. And so it looks like we're here again. And it is really nice.
Very good. And you've got it timed perfectly. If people want to enjoy dinner downtown, it's set up so you can have a nice downtown meal and then head on over to Fiddler's Crossing. We're asking for a $10 donation to be paid at the door. And people want more information on the film. I want to ask you more questions about it, but do you have a website, Marilyn, that people
I do,
go to?
MarilynSchlitz.com, and all they have to do really is search for Death Makes Life Possible. We've been very privileged with this project. We've been all over the world with it. We've won numerous awards, and we were on Oprah. So we've reached millions of people. And in that process, I've created educational programs that accompany the film, some research that has looked at how people, as they begin to consider this conversation around death, reduce their anxiety. And so these are things that can actually be measured from a scientific point of view. So we can show that facilitating these kinds of conversations not only expands our imagination and feeds our curiosity, but is also very directly, important to our health and well-being. So yes, we've been all over the place. I've been to China a few times. I've been to Taiwan, Europe, South America. It's been in many, many venues. And as I mentioned, my husband, Giovanni Mandala, is a brilliant songwriter, performer. And so he's going to accompany us at our venture here at Fiddler's Crossing. He will play some beautiful acoustic guitar. He'll also share with us a couple of his original songs. And this is new to Tehachapi. He's never played these songs before. So it's a wonderful opportunity. And we'll also have some very light refreshments. So if people get there a little early and want to settle in, it'll be a really comfortable place.
Does he play throughout the film, or is it in the very beginning?
So for this event, he'll play as people come in and as they're sitting. But you will hear his music all the way through the film because he wrote and performed for the movie.
Oh, that's great.
And also, some of you may know him because he plays in the local group Flashback.
That's right.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so when you see him, you may go, oh my God, oh, look at that. So, yes,
Yeah, Flashback's great.
Yeah.
Well, Marilyn, let's talk about the film and this journey to get it to final ends of production so it can be released. There's an awful lot of work. What were you a part of all the different processes? Or what was, I know this is your baby, so what was a little bit about that journey to get it done?
Yeah, well, both Deepak Chopra and I were executive producers. I wrote the narratives. We strung together the interviews. I worked with a brilliant director, Mark Krigbaum from Petaluma Pictures, to put it all together. And I think I mentioned, but we spent a couple of years working on this. We traveled to different places. We met with people of different faiths, Christian, Buddhist, Hindu, Muslim. We had a beautiful Sufi practitioner who talked to us about their death preparation rituals. We talked to a physician. His name was Lee Lipsenthal. Wrote a stunning book called Enjoy Every Sandwich, in which he chronicled his own death experience. And the movie opens with his story, and we kind of follow him through. He had no fear of death. And he talked about it with such confidence and such a sense of humility and curiosity. And I think that that really helps other people to consider, where are their moments. There was a brilliant book that was written by someone who won a Pulitzer called The Denial of Death, Ernest Becker. And that was kind of one of the first times that people started to look at, why do we deny our mortality? And what are the consequences of that? And so as a social scientist, I'm really interested in how we can understand those fear points, but also how, as we engage in conversation with people who don't have fear, a Buddhist master talking about reincarnation, or, the Hindus who are talking about the various life stages. And when we think of life stages, it's not only in this embodiment, it can also be beyond this embodiment. So it's a film, I think, that represents many, many different traditions, obviously not all, but it's something that has sparked conversations. And I'm also really interested in this idea of what I call elegant aging. So if we think about our own aging process, and everyone goes through it, if we live long enough, we will get old. And one of the things we have to come to terms with is our mortality. So how can we do this in a spirit of transformation, of enlightenment? And I think that accompanying our aging experience is our awareness around our death experience. So to the extent we can prepare for it, we can plan for it. We don't have to have it be something that takes us by surprise. I'm a big advocate for advance directives and for, estate planning, all those things. A lot of people have fear about doing those things. Like, if I think about it, it's just going to make it happen faster. But I don't agree with that at all. And my experience and the research shows that as people begin to understand, they become more peaceful. And they can accept the joys of everyday living with a greater sense of enthusiasm.
Now, did you find at all, does age play into this? Where myself, as you get older, do you become more in touch with that reality? Or is, I would think maybe if you're younger, you don't even think about it. Or does age play into this at all?
Well, I think that it kind of transcends age. I teach, and I have students of various ages, and they are really curious. You can find, in fact, in the film, we have a couple of children. They're probably 6 to 8 years old. And you'll hear from one of them saying, I've always wondered what happens when we die, and I still haven't figured it out. It's a good moment of humor. The film has, the serious dimensions, but it also has those moments of lightness. And I think this young woman, girl, really did articulate that there is no age boundary on this question. And kids early on are often extremely interested. And that curiosity gets put down. As people, maybe older people who are afraid to have that conversation. Oh, don't think about that. But I think it's really healthy for people at all ages to think about it. And as I said, I think it's a great source of healing for people.
I think that's so true, like personal experience. But when I was a kid, I'm like the same thing, like, oh, I wonder what happens. And I think when you experience your first grief and death in the family, I think that's when you start to develop this sense of fear with death, because I would say I'm very anxious when I talk about death or think of death. So this is definitely something I want to look into because I have those anxious thoughts.
Well, great. We'll look forward to seeing you there.
Yes.
I think grief is another factor that has different kind of cultural packaging. And so how can we develop rituals both internally as well as externally? We know that we're coming up to the Day of the Dead or Halloween. These are practices that are very ancient, and they have been a way of building that bridge between our sense of the living and our connection to those who are departed. So you think about something in the Mexican tradition, for example, with the Day of the Dead, that there is this idea that at this time of year, there is this veil, and the veil begins to thin. And so there's an opportunity to cross over and to have conversation. One of my research projects is what we call the psychomantium. And the psychomantium is basically a sensory deprivation procedure where people go into either a quiet room, or in the case of our current research, we use virtual reality. And we take people into this altered state of consciousness and we get them really comfortable. And then we invite them to have the conversation with their departed loved ones that they were never able to have before. And there's something very comforting about that. And we've been able to measure their grief. We've been able to measure their anxiety. And we also look at something called absorption, how deeply they get into this altered state of consciousness. And the more deeply they're able to approach their departed loved ones, the more profound the experience is for them and the more beneficial it is for them. So, it's been really interesting to see how people describe their experience of these conversations with their departed loved ones. Some people hear voices, some people sense it in their bodies. Some people, one woman described the smell of her grandmother's living room that she remembered as a child. And that was very satisfying. And so for many people, if you've never had the chance to reach out and connect with your departed, this can be very, very comforting.
In your travels and putting it together, was there a culture where you were set back and go, wow, I was not anticipating that?
Well, many cultures have sort of shall we say, eclectic practices. One of the most fascinating to me is in Tibetan Buddhism, is the sky burial. And this is particularly for the enlightened adepts, so people who have been practicing Buddhism, who have ostensibly reached a state of enlightenment, and they take them up to a mountaintop, and there's a skilled practitioner who actually cuts the body up and feeds it to the vultures. And the idea here is that the soul or spirit is released, consciousness is released, and that this thing that carries us around, this physical incarnation that we have, is really the illusion. And so I found that extremely interesting. I mentioned the Sufi practice of grief and preparation. And what they do is they dig a grave and they lay by it, or they'll even lay in it in order to practice what that process is going to be. I know for myself, I've had this experience. It was a dream. I've had it a couple of times where I'm on an airplane and I'm looking out that little portal at the back. And in the one dream, there was a man standing next to me and he was frantic. And I said, "Go for the light, go for the light." And I think that's an insight that comes from some of these spiritual traditions that allow us a sense of direction. Where are we going to go from here? And just one other anecdote, I have interviewed an android. Her name is Sophia. She's very, very famous. She's been on the front page of many, many articles. So she's a robot. And I had an interview with her where I talked to her about many things. We talked about relationships, we talked about consciousness, and we talked about death. And I asked her, I said, "Well, what do you think happens when you die?" And she said, "Well, I don't know, but I hope that it's my opportunity to reach the event horizon of a black hole." And this totally took me aback, and it got my meditations, engaged. And so I called a friend of mine who's an astrophysicist at Cambridge in England, and I said, "Well, what would happen if you reached the event horizon of a black hole?" And he said, "Well, you'd be flattened, so, you wouldn't be in your body." He said, "But if you could get to a wormhole in the black hole, that could potentially lead you to another galaxy." So who knows, really? I mean, these are the big, meaty, juicy questions that we have, but it has influenced my meditation. So when I'm in that quiet place and I want to think about, my own mortality, I often think about bringing my awareness to the light and to the opportunity to find that wormhole that could potentially take me into something completely unknown to anything we experience today.
Wow.
So many
Crazy.
perspectives on death and what happens in the afterlife.
And it's so
crazy.
rich and wonderful. And that's why this movie is going to be a lot of fun. And we're going to stick around after and have the conversation.
So I was going to say, so you interview multiple people, different ages, all throughout this film. So you kind of just see their perspectives on it.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah. And talk about some of my own experiences. But yeah, I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
And it's a unique opportunity with this eclectic film series, Andi, that you put together. When you bring the filmmaker in, and people can interact with you and ask you about it, maybe what you were thinking when this occurred, or not everything makes the film. There's a lot of stuff on the cutting room floor that doesn't make it, and it's a great opportunity to get those answers from you. I'm sure that you probably get some great questions from people that go, "Hey, I saw this. What about what happened here? There's something else that wasn't told," and you've got that you can share if you want to.
Yeah, and in fact, before we actually start the movie, that's what I'll ask people to do, is pay attention to those points that make them curious, and then let's talk about it.
Oh, that's going to be great. So it's an interaction. You get to enjoy the documentary and then to explore more and pull things out that, usually you get a chance to watch something and you think about it and then you move on to something else and you never get to explore that thought. Here, we can take the time to explore that with you and have that conversation.
Yeah, and hopefully people will take some insights away with them.
That's exciting. It's going to be a fun time. So, Andi,
Well, listen.
great job.
Oh, thank you. Well, here it is. We've got a documentary that's been seen around the world, and now it's going to be seen at Fiddler's Crossing in Tehachapi, and I hope we fill the place and have them just lining up outside because this is such a wonderful gift to share. Thank you.
Now, Andi, you've created social media, so let's make sure we share that because we want people to start to follow the things that you are into and you're sharing and what you're developing with your film series. So how can people follow? Do you have a Facebook?
We have a Facebook page. It's an Eclectic Film Series. I have my QR code now, thanks to Key Budge. And the lovely, I always want to call her Claire. Claire
Scotty.
Claire Scotty at the Chamber is teaching me social media. So I've done my first Instagram, and they're going to be coming out this week. So
Good
I
deal.
hope that I managed to catch your attention.
Is your Instagram account, is it the same title, an Eclectic Film Series?
right, yes.
Okay, perfect.
Yes.
So we invite you to follow along. We'll make sure, Bailey, when we put this together, let's make sure we put Andi's social in there so we can start to get her some followers.
Will do.
And
Thank
people will continue to drive the curiosity for your film series and see what comes next.
Oh, and we need presenters. So everybody out there with a story to tell, please give us a call.
Absolutely. Okay. Marilyn, your website again is your name?
Yeah, MarilynSchlitz.com.
Great. And did you say you're about to release another book?
Yeah, this will be my 11th book, actually. I just recently published my first novel. Most of my work is nonfiction. It's called Love Study, and it's based on some work I did in a laboratory looking at how that connection between loved ones can facilitate potentially non-local, non-physical evidence for something beyond.
And then is this do you have any other documentaries or other films that you've produced?
I have one, it's called Integral Practitioners, and it's about, it accompanied a book I did called Consciousness and Healing, and it was interviews with physicians and health professionals talking about their own interest in mindfulness and alternative approaches to health and healing.
Okay. And then the podcast series that you had.
Death Makes Life Possible.
That's very easy. And that's available on all, I would assume, all podcasting platforms?
I hope so. I'm not really sure where it is anymore.
You'll find out.
We keep moving forward.
Very good.
And I do want to say, if I might, just to add a thing, I'd like to say that thanks to Claire Scotty, who's teaching me social media, I'm getting a little bit more notice.
That's excellent.
And just to say, Andi is such a great example of elegant aging. She's just continuing to learn and blossom and share. She's really a gift.
Mm-hmm.
It's been fun getting a chance to know Andi, work with her, through the podcast. Started, I think, with TCTA.
TCT,
At the TCT.
TCT,
Oh, my gosh.
and then it became TCTA.
Wow, that's
Yeah,
right.
it's
So I want to say that's
back.
probably like 6 years ago.
Way back before COVID, or just
Yeah.
at the COVID turning point.
Yeah, that would have been in season 1. So now we're
Season
wrapping
one.
6. This is our 6th season and more than 600 episodes. So it's amazing the amount of content that we've been able to produce, utilizing the talent that lives here in Tehachapi. I mean, the stories continue to come forward for us to share, and it's so Marilyn. Thank you for taking the time. We really appreciate it.
Gosh, thank you. I can't wait to see everybody on the 28th.
That's going to be the last Tuesday every month. That's Andi's film series, an Eclectic Film Series. And Marilyn's film, Death Makes Life Possible, October 28th. The doors open at 6:30. 7 p.m. is the screening, but at 6:30 when the doors open, your husband, who scored the movie, will be playing beautiful music, and you'll get a chance to hear his music in the film. So that's you get to see the musician, the filmmaker all together. So I think that's going to be pretty cool.
It's a multimedia extravaganza.
There you go.
There we go.
It is. Yeah, no, I was just going to say that because I have a friend in college who was into films, and that was kind of the first friend I had in that industry. And so I would think if you're interested in becoming a film major or screenwriter in college, this is definitely something you should go to. If you're in high school or going into college, I think going to these screenings will just further your education, gain a new perspective. So I think that's amazing.
So you mentioned when you were a kid, you were thinking about death. Were there any insights or particular moments that transformed you?
I would say almost in a negative way, when I lost my grandpa, I would say that's when I would question, like, oh my gosh, I think, is death going to happen to my father, to my mom, to me? And I would just be scared in a way. I think before then, it was just kind of over my head. Oh yeah, it's going to happen soon. But then I think when you grow older, especially with social media, showing you, oh, car accident here, or shootings, whatever the case may be, I think it just increases the fear I have with death.
Right. And I think that there's a body of science in social psychology that looks at what's called terror management theory. So people having this kind of terror around death. And if you can help them to foster their own self-esteem and their own psychological well-being, you can help to reduce that terror. And one of the amazing things that's come out of that block of research is when people are truly filled with this kind of terror, they can become very aggressive and violent. And so one of the things that I'm really interested in is how can we cultivate a more peaceful, better world? And so, hearing about your own experience around, the discomfort, and then inviting you to come into this conversation so that you can, begin to think about the possibilities rather than the fear points.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are avoidant with this topic, so not a lot of people do explore the topic, and so I think that it's here in our backyard, basically. It's a perfect opportunity to learn more.
Thank you.
It's interesting because myself as a cop for 26 years, I've desensitized myself to a lot of things. So I have not, through my wife's side, we've had some deaths, but I know that for myself, I think it's the 26 years of doing that job in law enforcement where you see so much that you kind of, and kind of close the door on some of those, not allowing you to have certain feelings, and you kind of push them back.
Yeah, and also embrace them.
Yeah.
So that's a really great point you make about beginning to desensitize. I think that's a beautiful point. And as one can consider these different traditions and see how different people coming from different cultures approach the question, also allows us to connect to those people instead of feeling fear toward them.
All right. There is so much that we're going to be able to take away on October 28th. I'm looking forward to it. Great job, Andi. You brought us a good one here today, and we're excited.
I'm going to keep doing that.
Oh, yeah.
I know you will.
I know. In November, we have Chris Biggs, who's a Disney Imagineer.
Oh,
and
wow.
then we're going to give you a choice of a very nice community musical comedy. Then get to choose whether it's MAME or whether it's, The Music Man, or if it's The Mikado. Who knows? So stay tuned.
So many things to look forward to. But first, October 28th at Fiddler's Crossing, 6:30, the doors open. Asking for a $10 donation. You get a chance to meet Dr. Marilyn Schlitz, her husband. You'll get to see the film, which is Death Makes Life Possible. And then any questions you have. Marilyn's going to stick around to answer all those for you.
Can't wait.
All right, folks.
And before you turn it off, I just want to say, we say donate lavishly or donate a little or not at all. So you don't have to
Okay.
open your
Good to know.
pocketbook. Just
Very
come.
good. Very good. We want people to come and get to see this art that has been put together, that's presented, and that's the most important thing.
And the person behind it.
Absolutely. All right, folks, if you've got a question based on today's conversation with Marilyn Schlitz and Andi Hicks, you can send it to media@TehachapiCityHall.com. We appreciate the time you spend with us, and we'll catch you again soon right here on Tehachapod. You've been listening to Tehachapod. If you have a question, a thought, or a suggestion, email media@TehachapiCityHall.com. We'll catch you again soon right here on Tehachapod.